Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 700 Club. President Trump has taken a number of hits this week, from a book depicting a chaotic White House to an op-ed in the New York Times by an anonymous senior staffer. One story you won't hear much about, however, is the positive economy. New numbers out today show 21,000 jobs were added in August, and that's a message the president's team wants to get out because they believe it could affect the upcoming midterm elections. Heather Sells has more.
If Republicans hold the House this November, the economy could be a big reason why. It is a key talking point for the president right now. He brought it up again last night at a Montana rally.
We've created over 4 million new jobs since the election.
It's not a terribly hard sell. Consumer confidence is soaring, recently hitting an 18-year high. Unemployment is at near record lows. And business investment helped push the second quarter GDP beyond expectations. Still, the mainstream media doesn't talk about it, much less give any credit to the president or his tax cut. Media watcher Dan Gaynor says it's no surprise.
When we find out the economy is growing not even at 4.1%, but 4.2% for GDP, there's barely any coverage at all. You get all-time record low unemployment for African Americans, barely any coverage.
Harkening back to Bill Clinton's famous quote, "It's the economy, stupid," conservatives like Ralph Reed believe most people are focused on what's happening in the country, not inside the Beltway.
I don't believe that the voters care about what the media cares about. That was amply demonstrated in 2016. I think for the average American that is not ideologically motivated, they're not really hard right or hard left. They're interested in kitchen table issues.
That's why many inside the GOP want to emphasize accomplishments such as new approaches to North Korea and Iran, plus more conservative federal court judges and a likely Supreme Court justice.
I would ignore the article, I would ignore the book, and I would tell the American people what I've done and what I'm going to do. You've got an incredible story for less than 2 years of being president.
Many believe with a strong positive message like that, the GOP will lose seats but keep the House. Heather Sells, CBN News.
We live in amazing days, don't we? You want to say that it's like Nehemiah. Mr. President, just keep building the wall. Well, in other news, it looks like the on-again, off-again talks with North Korea are moving in the right direction. Charlene Aaron has more from our top stories in the CBN newsroom.
That's right, Terry. New reports that Kim Jong-un wants to revive stalled nuclear talks with the U.S. North Korea's dictator reportedly laid out a timeline, saying he wants to get rid of all his nukes during President Trump's term. Talks had broken down, with the president even canceling a summit between Kim and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now the two leaders are exchanging compliments. Kim says he has faith in the president, and Trump tweeting back, "We will get it done together." And more fallout from the bombshell op-ed published by the New York Times, reportedly written by a senior Trump administration official. It takes direct aim at the president. Many on the president's team are coming forward to say they didn't do it. As CBN's Jenna Browder tells us, the administration reportedly has a list of suspects.
Everyone, including President Trump, wants to know who wrote this anonymous op-ed. Last night, he was on the campaign trail in Montana venting about it.
But for the sake of our national security, the New York Times should publish his name at once. I think their reporters should go and investigate who it is. That would actually be a good scoop.
In the piece, the unnamed senior administration official says there's quiet resistance within the administration and that many are working diligently from within to frustrate the president's agenda and his worst inclinations. The White House reportedly has a list of about 12 suspects as denials from key administration officials pour in.
Well, look, anyone who would write an anonymous editorial smearing this president, who's provided extraordinary leadership to this country, should not be working for this administration. They ought to do the honorable thing and they ought to resign.
Among others, Secretary of Defense James Mattis, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also deny writing the piece.
I come from a place where if you're not in a position to execute the commander's intent, you have a singular option. It is to leave.
First Lady Melania Trump is also speaking out and accuses the writer of sabotaging the country. Former Trump campaign aide Michael Caputo tells CBN News there's a simple way to get to the bottom of it.
Look at the departments of your government, Mr. President. Find the departments that have purged all Trump supporters from those departments. That's where you'll find this culprit.
He also says the timing of the op-ed shouldn't be lost and encourages the president to not let it distract him from the midterm elections.
It's designed to depress the turnout of the president's base so that the Democrats will win the House of Representatives. In the end, this op-ed is about impeachment.
A lot of ideas are being thrown out. One that seems to be sticking is from Senator Rand Paul, who says the president should force administration officials to take lie detector tests. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Political grandstanding at the Brett Kavanaugh hearings has many claiming they're more about the next presidential election than confirming a Supreme Court justice. However, some in the hearing room are looking beyond politics, even as the partisan drama goes on all around them. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson explains.
Day 3 of Judge Kavanaugh's hearing turned into one of the rowdiest yet. Democratic Senator Cory Booker took a controversial swing coming out, announcing he publicly released committee confidential documents he thought the public deserved to see.
I'm ready to accept the full responsibility for what I have done, the consequences for what I have done, and I stand by the public's right to have access to this document.
Senator John Cornyn then pointed out Booker could be expelled from the Senate for his actions.
I just think it's important that we remind one another that there are clear rules about the discussion of confidential material and that there can be consequences to the violations of those rules.
To which Booker responded,
Then apply the rule and bring the charges.
Mr. Chairman.
As it turns out, what Booker described as his Spartacus moment was all just for show, as President Bush's records representative quickly released a statement saying they were surprised to learn about Booker's histrionics because we had already told him he could use the documents publicly. The chaos of the day was not limited just to the hearing room, however, as opponents of Kavanaugh expanded their protests around the Hill and into Chairman Chuck Grassley's office.
Chuck Grassley, come out. We've got some things to talk about.
Evangelist Dutch Sheets, who's led a prayer team in the hearing room this week, told CBN News his group has interacted often with the protesters and learned they're more organized than people realize.
Some of my friends have seen them being paid. It's an orchestrated effort to try and make a statement and convince the nation that they're the mainstream and that this is what people want. But it's not true, and we know it's not true.
Sheets told CBN he has felt an intense spiritual warfare this week.
For so long, I feel like the enemy had been making such progress that he's now just kind of amped it up. You know, I've got to stop this shift that's happening. And so I think the warfare is even more intense than ever.
As for Judge Kavanaugh, he spent his last day in the hot seat answering many of the same questions as the day before and reaffirming senators he will be a fair justice on the Supreme Court.
I'm on the sunrise side of the mountain, and I'm an optimist about the future.
Witnesses supporting and opposing Judge Kavanaugh will be the next to testify. It will be an opportunity for the committee to hear unique perspectives before making the decision whether to send the nominee to the full Senate with a favorable recommendation. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Anne Graham Lotz is praising God despite a recent breast cancer diagnosis. The evangelist and author announced the news in a statement on her website this week. Lotz says she is holding fast to the promises of God and that he has given her wisdom and clear guidance through this journey. Lotz will undergo surgery scheduled September 18th at North Carolina Cancer Hospital in Chapel Hill. She continues to ask for prayers, and we will definitely be praying for her. Terry?
Boy, that is true. Anne Graham Lotz, an inspiring teacher of the word, and someone for whom we are so grateful as we watch her live her faith out loud. Be praying for her, please.